Good start to the week. Well, so last weekend was pretty crazy, huh? We had Hurricane Fiona basically knocking out power to all of Puerto Rico, also putting all of Puerto Rico under a flash flood emergency. We had a potential for a severe weather outbreak that thankfully didn't happen in the Midwest yesterday evening, and well, we can only wonder what lies ahead for next week. But before I get into that, I also want to say we put up a lot of videos as well last weekend. And four to be exact, if I remember correctly. Those videos have done pretty well. I mean, they're not the most amazing numbers in the world, but for somebody who has 50 subs, I'm grateful for it. So, to anyone that's been watching on here and is watching right now, at the time you see this video, thank you. So that being said, let's get into this week because this is going to be a weekly forecast. But as you can see by the tabs, there's a lot to unpack here. So, as you can see here, we have several days where we have some potential of severe weather. Wednesday being the greatest day of interest so far. As of right now, on days 4 through 8, there are no areas, but they are all labeled as predictability too low. In fact, we'll just go over all of these really quick. As far as Monday is concerned, our threats are just about over. I mean, really the main threat was going to be hail with this. And yes, you do see this correctly. This is a marginal risk that's in Northern California right now. This is associated to that big storm system that was part of what once was Typhoon Marbach. Hopefully I'm pronouncing that right. But Marbach is moving its way down to the south and east, and it's causing all sorts of bits with the jet stream. So we're going to be in a very interesting weather pattern very shortly here, and there's going to be a lot of activity as well as a result of it. So this is part of it. This is day 1. We go to day 2. We have another marginal risk, and this is around the Great Lakes region. Not too much going on with that. The main threat's going to be wind and hail. I think having more wind bags is going to be the main threat here versus hailstones, but can't rule it out. But beyond that, just mostly garden variety thunderstorms towards the western half of the country this time. The eastern half looks pretty calm other than southern Texas and, of course, Florida. Then we get to day 3, and this is where things get a little bit more interesting. Slightly more organized storm system is expected to go through here, slightly stronger, and we have to look towards the Ohio Valley and parts of the Northeast, as well as the Great Lakes for a potential for severe weather. Greatest area of focus for right now is going to be towards New York and the northern corners of Ohio and Pennsylvania, and then maybe the southern corner of Michigan here. Or actually, that is Michigan. Okay, I was trying to make sure I had that right here. Started looking at Milwaukee and I got confused. I'm sorry. But over towards Watertown, Rochester, and Buffalo, New York, we're watching you guys. Cleveland, Ohio, you guys are in this too, and then of course Detroit, Michigan. Steel City, we'll be watching you guys super close for the threat of severe weather. Given the fact that we're on day 3, we don't have a great idea of what our hazard type risk are as of right now, but we'll gain a little bit more clarity come tomorrow. I'll get a little bit more into detail with that then, but as for right now, we're just working with what we got. We look on days 4 through 8. Okay, day 4, predictability too low. 6, 7, and 8. There we go. Nothing surprising there, so we'll just have to keep an eye out for any sort of changing conditions. But we're going to do that right now, actually. We're going to go ahead and take a look at the GFS. Kind of get an idea of what storm systems could be lurking out there. So here's our current storm system over the north and east that's exiting the area. It's really weakened over the last little bit. And then here's our big storm system that's hanging off the west coast here that's going to be bringing all the inclement weather to the west. So we'll move this along. And This is a huge, this is a huge storm system that's off to the west here. I would almost even go as far as to say this could even be almost like a trough ejection, but we're not. It's not negatively tilted. It's pretty neutral right now, and it's gonna be a little bit too far to the north. But this is definitely looking like a storm system that is going to cause a lot of problems throughout the course of the week. And then hang on a minute. I think this is Marbach right here, or what the remnants of Marbach was, somewhere around here, and this could cause. This is what's most likely going to cause our severe weather. And then we have this bowling ball here, right behind it. It's positively tilted, and I guess the GFS is starting to pick up on that Fujiwara effect that I brought up in a video last week. Link to that will be in the top right hand corner. But you can clearly tell that a lot is going on. Some very strong storm systems are ahead. So we'll have to watch this real close and see just what in the world might be in store for us. I'm mainly looking towards the northern plains for any sort of severe weather potential. Otherwise, either you're getting garden variety thunderstorms or you're going to be staying pretty dry. Let's go ahead and see what the Euro's talking about as well. I'm thinking it's going to be mostly the same thing. Okay, we're looking at an 18Z run here. So we're only going to get about 90 hours out of it. Again, here's our... Oh, gotta start over from the beginning. That's one thing I keep forgetting about with tropical tidbits versus pivotal weather. Pivotal weather will automatically reset you whenever you switch to forecast to a different model. But here we are. This is our... Oh, jumped a little too far ahead. But you can clearly see our first storm system here. This is our storm system that's off to the west. Now, as far as the second storm system, or the remnants of Marbach, which are going to be coming from Alaska here, it's not quite as robust as the GFS. Like I said in the previous video, GFS doing GFS things kind of likes to play a little bit more towards that doomsday scenario, but this does kind of get that really strong positive tilt here. And based on all indicators here, based on this last model run, I do see the potential for the Fujiwara effect to come into play again with Fiona, maybe bringing it into Nova Scotia. But as far as U.S. impacts are concerned with Fiona, I'm not too concerned about it. The most that we might get from Fiona would be some increased surf and rip currents. However, it is expected to become a major hurricane, and I will briefly touch on that in a minute. That'll be towards the end of the video, though. But this is the end of our model run here. So now we're just going to go ahead and take a look at the low-level jet here over the next 3.5 to 4 days. Kind of pinpoint if there's going to be any sort of major tornado threat. I'm kind of doubtful, but with the storm system as strong as what we have right now, you can't rule it out. Pretty much everything's on the table, and we got plenty of wind energy from the looks of this thing. I do think a bow echo is going to be possible on Wednesday, particularly, especially once we get into the late evening and overnight hours. You can see these just rampant pieces of low-level jet energy where we're hitting about 30, 40 knots. And one thing I want to keep in mind here is the fact that, these longer range models like the Euro and the GFS sometimes will downplay these numbers with the low-level jet in the Cape. So we have to be a little bit more watchful in regards to how much these increase or decrease. And there's Fiona right there. And when we look into Friday, here's another big storm system. I think this is the one that's off the west coast. So this weekend could get pretty interesting in its own right. So we'll have to watch this real close and see what happens with this. But Wednesday is definitely a day of interest, and I would venture to say maybe even Friday and Saturday. Alright, so now that we've looked at that, we'll set this up for the temperatures in a minute. And we're going to go ahead and take a look at the mixed layer cape here real quick. Like I said, have to take these with a grain of salt because these could easily increase or decrease, and especially with something like the Euro and the GFS. The long range models aren't the most accurate with cape. You want to get the short range models like the NAM or HRRR with that, but considering how far out we're looking, it's going to be kind of hard to really nail days like Wednesday down right now. So Tuesday does look like there's or Monday night looks like we have a sufficient amount of cape, but I think these storms will already be long gone by the time that cape reaches that area. Now Tuesday gets a little bit more interesting, not by much though. Wednesday is one I'm really interested in, but of course the further out we go, the harder it is to really pinpoint the capes. But I'll put it in perspective to you like this: to have cape values pushing towards 2,500 about 3 days out, I do think those cape values will be pushing above 3,000. And this is towards about maybe 2, 3, 4 o'clock in the afternoon on Wednesday. So we'll have to be really careful of where things go from there, especially once we get towards Lake Erie and Lake Ontario. I'm extremely interested in seeing what happens with that there. So your guess is as good as mine as far as what the Storm Prediction Center will do with that on Saturday. Saturday. Wednesday. It's been a long day. I'm very tired and I apologize. But that's what we got going on there. Let's flip-flop back and we'll take a look at the temperatures for the week. We'll run this in the loop here. So right now, this cold front really isn't going to do this upcoming cold front isn't going to do a bunch to really cool down the temperatures. Towards the south and east, we're going to be starting to bake again. Maybe towards the weekend, that upcoming storm system, though, that might have some more interesting implications as far as the temperatures and the overall pattern is concerned. Oh, wow. You can actually see Fiona on the temperature model here. That's kind of crazy. Like, look, that's kind of amusing. I'm not going to lie. It may seem childish to you, but it is pretty amusing to me. I'm not going to, I can't lie. Alright, so let's look at the lightning flash density here. We'll kind of get a quick idea of what may lie ahead for areas that are not expecting severe weather, where we could expect some increased thunderstorm activity. Towards Monday, I think towards the southwest, maybe even towards New Mexico and Texas, we might have a little bit of increased thunderstorm activity. Business really looks to pick up in the early morning hours around southern Minnesota. I do think that these storms will probably be below severe limits. We'll have to watch that real close. And Tuesday afternoon, of course, is going to be Wisconsin and Michigan that we're looking at. Then, of course, Wednesday, there's our greatest severe weather threat, especially into the overnight hours. And look at how brightly that goes. Looking at about 15 strikes a day, definitely coincides with a severe weather threat. Of course, we have towards the west is where our most active weather is going to be. Towards the eastern half of the country, outside of our severe weather area, not really much going there. So Thursday, this threat kind of pushes a little bit further to the east. Wouldn't be surprising to see a day 3 marginal for Thursday. And then on Friday, as of right now, things are pretty calm. This is the only model that, the Euro is the only model that I have that actually will show the flash density. GFS does not show that, so this is all I can really work with right now. So I guess the next thing to really do here is to go ahead and look at the precip rate, and then we'll do a quick update on Fiona, and I'll be out you guys' hair. So for the most part, I mean, everything that I've talked about, we're just more or less summarizing it with this map here. Here's Fiona. Here's our upcoming storm systems. This one's moving out. Catches Fiona. Probably going to throw it into Nova Scotia. Maybe areas a little bit further off to the east. I have to get used to looking towards different areas of Canada. I'm not super familiar with it yet. I'll work on it though. Here's storm system number 1, storm system number 2, and then here's storm system number 3 that is likely to become a big deal this weekend. So that's pretty much it for the weekly forecast, and now we will take a look at Hurricane Fiona here. So Hurricane Fiona has finally cleared the Dominican Republic and Puerto Rico. It's caused a lot of chaos around there. Power still out for most of Puerto Rico. Large part of the Dominican Republic has dealt with catastrophic flooding. I'm still not entirely sure of just how significant. I haven't gotten a great look at some of the most recent reports. But one thing that has changed is the forecast cone and its intensity. One thing I will also mention before I get into its track is that if you remember a couple videos back when I was saying I didn't think Fiona would make it to hurricane off the jump like the NHC and other forecast outlets were predicting, because it was increasing in size, I do think that affected its track and led it to making landfall in both Puerto Rico and Dominican Republic, thus leading to me believing that this storm track, as far as this storm track is concerned, I think Fiona will lean a little bit further to the west of this storm track, more so than the center. So this may very well spare Bermuda, which would be great news, because if it were to actually end up hitting Bermuda based off this current cone, this would hit as a major hurricane, which would be very bad news for those guys. We've seen what this thing can do as a mid-range category 1. I would hate to see what it could really do at a peak intensity, because there's some models that are kind of pushing this towards category 4. But anyway, this hurricane is, once it moves past Bermuda, it maintains major hurricane strength for a while, and then by this weekend, I'm not sure what this area is called exactly. I think this is Nova Scotia, right about here. I'm not sure of this island. I don't want to mispronunciate or call it something that it's not supposed to be. But this is an area that I'm interested in as far as potential landfall as a hurricane. We'll go ahead and look at the spaghetti models and see just what kind of intensity it could be at with within that point. But this is what Fiona looks like right now. Definitely strengthening. You see a lot of new thunderstorms developing on the right side here. You see the classic buzzsaw look. You could see a very well defined eye wall. Very clear eye wall too. So I do think maybe by early tomorrow, this could be making a major hurricane status with winds above 110 miles an hour. So we'll go ahead and take a look at the spaghetti models here. Kind of get an idea of what our intensity is going to look like now. A lot of models, and I mean a lot of models, are going to be pushing this towards Cat 3. We do have other areas that we could be, whoa, hold on, pause a minute here. Wow, look at that. That's news to me. I haven't gotten a great look at the tropical weather outlook because I was preparing the weekly forecast, but that is very interesting, and we will definitely be going over that tomorrow. Maybe even tomorrow morning if I'm able to get up early enough. Don't hold me to that. But that being said, we're going to go back to the intensity models here. We have about at least 6, maybe even 7 models that have this going well into major hurricane status. Several of them have it pushed into category 4. One even has it pushed into 5. That's insane. And then after that, and this is about maybe 120 hours out, looks like it starts to drop off as it starts to get into colder waters and maybe a little less favorable conditions as well. Only one model goes out to about 240 hours. And I mean, it's pretty much nothing to really see there. It's going to drop off from this point, really. In fact, but that model, in fact, has it just about on the cusp of major hurricane right now. But let's go ahead and take a look at the spaghetti models here. And there is a lot of agreement saying that we're going to have a storm that hits right around the Nova Scotia region, I would say. And this may even go as far as Greenland. Wow, I'm kind of shocked. But a lot of interesting things going on with Fiona. Be interesting to see what happens next. Here's hoping that this does not make landfall on Bermuda. But anyone in the path of the storm, whether you're out at sea, or Bermuda, or towards the Nova Scotia region, or areas to the east of it, be on the lookout for rapidly changing weather conditions this weekend. This is all I got for you guys, though. This has been Tyler Metalhead Weatherman. I will promise to have the video up for you tomorrow, if not tomorrow morning, tomorrow afternoon. But if you like what I did here, give me a like, drop a comment, subscribe, share the channel, get the info out to people that need it. Until the next one, I'll see you guys next time.